look, I can name a number of disaster and emergency management situations where it was really beneficial, having eyes in the skies. We're able to get real-time data and information, feed that back to the organization, then send troops out to specific areas to start helping people in need. And, when we think about just imagery, in the past, it's really been a costly endeavor to try and get imagery, access it in real time, and then try to add it to your system. So I think drone technology is really changing the game there.
Drone to map was introduced, back in
2016?
2016?
Yeah, 2016, yeah.
So, are we talking about that now? Or?
We are. Well, no, we're not. We're talking about Site Scan for ArcGIS, which is the next evolution of our drone imagery collection. So we've really seen, things have changed very quickly, as you say. There's, this growing demand. It's yet another piece in our toolkit where we need to go out and respond to these events. So Site Scan for ArcGIS, as our sort of next generation product, supports cloud-based end-to-end drone workflows and imagery processing. So it's sort of the next step after drone to map when you want to have that processing and storage capability as well. You're also able to plan and execute your flights and manage your drone fleets as well. As a product, it really streamlines the whole process of designing your flight plans, conducting your flights. If you're an operator who's designing your flight plan, you can actually bring in other information from your ArcGIS system to help you do that design, and you can plan your optimal flight paths in 2D and in 3D, which is very nice. And once that's all ready, you basically just hit go, and you can autonomously execute your flights, capture your project data, and then upload it and validate it while you're still on site in the field.
From what you're explaining, and I've not used Site Scan yet, it sounds like, just the level of efficiency that'll bring to any organization is really next level. I can think of several scenarios where that would be really handy. The ability to capture images and then pretty much send them to your organization on the spot and then get people processing them using that information for, for good.
Right away.
Yeah.
I did a little bit of homework before this and just looked at the numbers of the adoption essentially of this ArcGIS Site Scan. It's essentially one of the fastest growing products in the last year. Particularly in Australia, and I think there's reasons of how big our country is and how remote some of the areas are. I kind of drilled into it further. The AEC sector, the utility sector, which I think water in particular is one that came up a lot, and also mining as well, the nature of mining and needing those drones. And the main issue I heard from those clients that have these drone fleets is that typically with maybe previous products that they used, those outputs would kind of go from the SD card and maybe to a desktop study, and that's kind of where they'd stop. With Site Scan, it's a full end-to-end solution from the flight planning, as you said, right the way through to the processing, but then back to us, right? Ingesting into the GIS so that you can then do all the magical stuff upstream with GIS. And the bit I had to double check, Site Scan provides unlimited processing and drone data storage. Unlimited. So no credits used, which I thought was pretty cool.
Unlimited for everything?
Unlimited for everything.
Unlimited storage and processing.
Okay.
If you do push your products into the rest of your ArcGIS Online, it's going to use those storage credits.
That's true.
But if you're, storing your imagery that you've captured, if you're doing that processing, it's unlimited, which is really, really good news.
It's the heavy work being.
Yeah, because, it can be a bit of a burden. When you're capturing your imagery, you want to process it, you have to think about, well, do I have enough storage space to capture everything? Do I have enough grunt on the machines to do that processing? Because it's an online cloud product, it just does it all for you. And you don't have to worry about that. It takes away that sort of stress about it. So you can just kick on and generate all sorts of different products, high-res orthophotos, DEMs, DSMs, point clouds, 3D meshes, you name it, and you can just get on with it and not have to worry. Obviously, that's going to give you that flexibility that you might need to scale your operations up and down as you need to. And your teams are better enabled to just get things happening. And that can be for multiple concurrent drone projects as well. So instead of having to sit there, wait for your drone to go out, the imagery comes back in, get the SD card, go to the ArcGIS Pro, do your processing, okay, next one. You can actually sort of set them up in parallel and have multiple projects at once. And because it's in the cloud, we can run those analytics and very much more quickly provide those actionable insights.
Behind those numbers I mentioned earlier, I kind of spoke to some of the agencies and the organisations that are using Site Scan. Some common themes came up on why they use it. Conducting visual inspections. So some of your assets that might be in hard to reach areas and you might have had to use rope work to kind of get to them. With a drone and Site Scan, you can get an output of that. The other one was mapping linear features. So everything from pipelines to utilities to even waterways, kind of mapping along those. And the third one was kind of creating those 3D outputs you mentioned, but on a schedule. So being able to create 3D meshes and ortho photos of maybe a project, particularly in the AEC sector and construction in particular. So you can sort of end up with this time-enabled sort of visual output of how that project's changed over time.
From everything that you've described, that actually puts a lot of things into context. So my understanding is, once you've captured your imagery, you've done your analysis, you then share your products, and you can share them as either reports or maps across ArcGIS Online and ArcGIS Enterprise. So you're really speeding up those workflows, getting all the information to all the relevant parties in a timely fashion. I think what's really exciting for me, drum roll please, and this is something that was requested by people, is that when you share this information, you can share it out to third-party processing tools like Autodesk BIM 360. So you can share that, for individuals, like Simon said, who want to inspect their assets, who want to monitor, who want to include those in their business workflows.
Yeah, there's a lot to love and for us to talk to with Site Scan. I actually see it being used in the field, and one of the cool things I'm hearing from our customers is that it's online. That's the real important thing. You can use it remotely and in the field. You can plan your operations behind the scenes. Your drone operators get out there in the field. They can get flying straight away. Your imagery flows back into the online systems as well. So it really is the best way to reduce that turnaround time and get the images that you need back into your system. We cut that time to market down.
Yeah, it definitely speeds things up sort of exponentially, really.
Yeah, it does.
It's much faster now. And because of that unlimited processing and storage in the cloud, you can scale what you're doing. So you can scale your processing, scale your flight planning, without having to invest in additional, processing and storage behind the scenes, which is, a really big deal for a lot of organizations.
Yeah, and to echo what you said, Wayne, while Site Scan's a cloud-based product, you can still pick and choose where those outputs go, right? ArcGIS Online or ArcGIS Enterprise.
Absolutely, yeah. Whatever your flavour
choice.
is. Yeah.
And again, that turnaround time you mentioned, so going from the flight planning to the GIS and the processing and getting it there can be less than sort of 12 hours, which is, again, important for those timely decisions.
That's amazing. 12 hours back into the system. I work with a lot of different organisations, and I actually see this being used in certain workflows. One of the workflows that I've seen it used in is site inspection. You're inspecting the pits, pipes, power lines, poles for like vegetation encroachment, or water pipelines for damage itself. We've seen it in post-disaster recovery as well. Tara, you and I did some work on this before, where we want to do damage assessment. So you get your site scan imagery into the system, do a little bit of machine learning, a little bit of AI, try and pick out what buildings and things have been destroyed, do a bit of burn scar analysis.
Yeah, burn scar analysis, yeah.
And, like when we have floods or fires, that's really important, because we can get that imagery in, and emergency responders get it straight away. 12 hours is exactly what you need in those kind of emergency situations. And the last one that I've seen it used for is mining operations, because you can do volumetric analysis on the 3D contents that you get back from Site Scan. You can actually measure and see exactly how much stock is, how much product's coming out of the ground and where it's going to.
Makes sense, yeah.